Can you get back with someone who tells you there is no chance of us getting back together? Perhaps it's something that you've heard from your ex. It's something extremely hard to hear. In this video, I will explain what you should be doing, whether you should entertain any hope, the different actions, the rationale, and potentially also explaining the psychology, because there's a reason why your ex used those words. Perhaps he or she said, "I don't love you anymore, stop contacting me." It's a reaction, and I'll explain in this video what you should be doing right away.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So first of all, yes, it hurts, it's unfair, it's difficult, it's painful. I'm a therapist and I help people to deal with those emotions, to reframe the thinking process that you're going through. The mistake that people make is that they blame themselves for this pain. Sometimes we feel depressed, we feel useless at work, we feel that every time we see our friends we are complaining, we are crying. That's okay. It's okay, it's normal, it's a normal reaction. It's the reaction of something that we feel is unfair, a reaction that someone really destroyed a dream, a vision, something that you really cared for. Not only the person, but what that person represented. And it's normal that you feel hurt, that's normal that you feel depressed right now. So the idea right now is don't bottle up those feelings, don't ignore those feelings, because that will prolong the healing process. That will make it even harder for you to make the right decisions, because in this video I want you to really learn things, practical things that you could be doing right now. It's often after a breakup kind of two teams: the ones who fail to understand how we function, our psychology, our ex's psychology, and act with intuition, with a sort of reflex, and people who reflect, who are really exploring what's going on in your head, what's going on in your ex's mind. I would argue that you're in the second team because you're watching this video. So it's really about how you can learn to accept and embrace those feelings. You can do that, read about DBT, CBT, online. There's many processes to do that. There are great books about how you can manage your emotions. It's also something that we do every Saturday with Elizabeth on our private call. If you want to take part, have a look in the description. There are links. Usually we share the links on our Telegram group. But it's part of the process is to really, not necessarily, it's painful and the pain will be there. The idea is not to deny that there's a pain. The idea is to use that, understanding it, observe. It's really about, in therapy we always say like observe, note, noticing the rational, the thinking process, the emotional process in your head. Okay, so from this point, it's also about what happened. It's very important for you to understand what happened, what brought you here. The challenge is to do it without judgment. It's to do it without neither blaming you, blaming themselves. Even though they took the decision to end the relationship, it's always 50-50. It takes two to get to a relationship that at some stage someone wants to end, right? So it's important to ask yourself those questions. How important was this relationship to you? And how important was this relationship to them? If it was a one-sided relationship, yes, you're never gonna get back together. Yes, this person hasn't had feelings for you. Usually people who are watching my videos, they had something special, they had something, a unique connection, right? They shared something, they had mutual feelings. And what also is very important for you to answer is, how did you end up to something so extreme? Perhaps you were married, perhaps you have kids, so at some stage in your life you were at the peak of love, everything was great. What happened, if you look back at your story, what happened to that person, the most important person in your life, is telling you, I don't love you anymore. There's no way we're going to get back together. Another question is also about attachment style, and I do a lot of videos about attachment style. And when people have a dismissive, avoidant style is people who are scared of commitment. So sometimes we find that those people, whenever there's a sign of commitment, wherever we sort of invade their space and their freedom, they might be pulling away. And that's probably perhaps the reason you are struggling to understand why out of nowhere this person is now deciding to end the relationship, because everything was fine and we just discussed about moving in together, and because you started asking about moving in together, he or she started to think differently. So these are the things you need to ask yourself, again, without judgment, without blaming yourself, removing this what if, I should have, could have. So now, very important, words are words. Some people, at the start of a relationship, they would love bomb, they will tell things to please the other. So love bomb includes like gifts, but also words, right? But they're not consistent. They don't follow through. And the same way it could happen, and I see that almost every day, people break up with their partner and they use mean words. They use really negative things to assert their decision. Because they feel that you're not listening. Because they feel that you're pushing back. Because they feel that you don't respect that decision. And usually, and that's the thing you need to assess in this case, is they probably said something with a low intensity. But for some reason, and because you were in pain, because you were hurt, you became a little bit clingy. You sort of confronted them at a time where they just needed a bit of space, need to reflect. But because you pushed back, there you created some sort of an escalation in the terms he or she used, leading up to things that could be the strongest, like, I don't love you anymore, stop contacting me, there is no chance. Something really like definitive, like, no, never, ever, ever, I will get back with you. Usually when people use these definitive terms, it's because they've been pushed in a way to use those words, to really send across the message, because they feel you were not listening to what they had to say. I want you to reflect on this text. People start relationships because they fall in love. Okay, fair enough. But some relationships are simply not special and breaking up becomes natural. So again, some of you might be watching this video, you're not suffering a lot after a breakup, and I think you'll feel better after a few months of just not having any news from your ex. It's because your relationship was not necessarily special. For those whose the relationship was special, I believe that love never truly disappears. What I believe is that people don't live out of love, and they live because the relationship doesn't longer serve them. So it's important. People don't break up because your ex probably broke up with you. It has nothing to do with love. They would say, it's because of feelings, they would say, we became roommates, you were too complacent, they can blame you. But it's usually, if you had something special, if you've been married, if you have kids, you have a history, you had projects together, I strongly believe, especially right after a breakup, that person still loves you, and in a way will still love you. That love will evolve, but they will still love you forever. The reason they broke up is because this relationship was not bringing them what they had before. It's very important. So it has nothing to do with your value, nothing to do with potentially what you've done and the person you are. It's really about the context of the relationship. Sometimes people think that they've changed, they evolved, but the relationship stayed there, okay? And this relationship represents something that they don't want anymore, right? And they would be thinking, rationalizing this by thinking, I don't have feelings for that person anymore. I'm talking about what I call long-lasting relationship, and I'll detail that afterwards. So first of all, change is required. They rejected the relationship. Something needs to change. You can't rescue the relationship they rejected. So don't try to fight, don't try to rescue this one, it's dead. And accept also the fact that, and it's very hard because you know that I'm saying this, you have to do it for yourself as well. This relationship is dead. Your job is to build a new one with that person. But the best way to do it in a constructive way is to do it for yourself. Create the condition that your next relationship would be a success. And in this framework, your ex can be part of this new relationship. It's very important for you to do this. So it's about letting go also of the idea of getting back together in a way. You do it for you. First, you create the conditions, and then explain when it happens, and then you basically maximize your opportunities. Is it guaranteed? Never. I cannot guarantee, nobody can guarantee. And if you hear someone telling you, I can guarantee you getting back with your ex if you do this and that and that, no, that doesn't happen this way. What I can guarantee, what people can guarantee you, is that you do the right things for yourself. You do what it takes to create the conditions. And actually what happens is when you do, your ex might be interested, your ex might not be interested. That's the thing we can't control. But usually then you come back from a position of power because you've done the work, you know what's right, you know your value, and you become the one choosing whether you want them back. So very often when you do the work, when I work with my clients and they're really, they do proper work, they're really invested, they usually shift to a position of and usually, the exes would reach out and be interested, and they'll be very difficult and very picky about choosing them back. In that context of recovery, especially if you're trying to recover from something that was really strong with those words, time is your ally. Because strong words, as I said, is the result of strong emotions, result of an escalation process. If I do the parallel with the SRS, stress response system, is one way to help people who have been triggered by this stress response system is taking your time, breathing, physical activity, sleeping, all these things. And by allowing your ex to have some time on their own, going no contact, is a way for them to take their time, breathing away from the tension, away from the resentment, maybe doing other things, experiencing other things, and you should also do this as well. Because your ex needs to cool down, you need to cool down. Right? So in that context, time is your ally. And one way to de-escalate a situation is not to add something to it, is to let it cool down. Makes super sense, but the thing is there's always this contradiction between what your heart is telling you, what your gut is telling you to do, and what your head should tell you to do. Can you get back with your ex in this context? By experience, getting back with an ex has nothing to do with what they say. It has nothing to do with those stories. I have dozens of stories where people told my clients, I will never ever get back with you. Things really awful. In reality, they got back together. What matters was the story that they had together. It's very important because the story is something you can leverage, something that you shared, right? They were with you, they loved you, okay? So you're the same person, right? So there's already the right foundation for you to rekindle things. It's just about adjusting things. What is very important also to assess is what you did before the breakup, because maybe you betrayed them or you've done things that were completely wrong. You didn't respect their needs or their choices. Maybe it's after the breakup. You were so clingy, so needy. You didn't respect their decision. You really triggered them if they were avoidant, for example. These will have an impact. The words won't. If you're not sure, I have put a quiz to make things simple. The link is in the description where you can assess, and it gives you a score telling you how likely there's a chance of you getting back with your ex. This quiz, I think it's unfortunately. But the way I designed it is, the reason I designed it is that I wanted to, it's not that I wanted only to help people who have a chance of getting back with the ex, but I made it kind of difficult in a way to manage people's expectation. And on this test, there's like only 50% of people who would be above average. The idea is that if you have a low chance of you getting back with your ex, there's no point entertaining any hope. The idea is like starting working on yourself. If you have a score above 20, then yes, there's a chance. Whether you'll get back with your ex or not is never 100%. If it's a bit confusing and you want to get to know more and me to listen to the specifics of the story, and if you, the main question that people have is like, should I move on or should I fight? And it's true that the quiz gives you an idea, but not necessarily the big picture. I'm going to be completely honest. So if you want to have a chat with me, there's a link as well to book a chat, a 15-minute chat to decide whether you should fight, you should move on. I'll be completely honest. If I see that the situation is dead, I will usually give you my opinion. Sometimes people have a hard time listening to hard truth, but usually it's you often say like it's like a massage. You know, it's painful when you do it, but then after a few days, you'll thank me because that's actually what you needed. So I'll tell you right away, and I'll assess whether you're a good fit to work with me, because sometimes I feel like people, they want to work with me, but they're not necessarily there yet, or they don't necessarily have the right motivation. So it's very important, a coaching relationship, whether you work with me or with anyone else, you need to understand that you are committed and you really want to invest, because what you get out of a coaching or counseling relationship is what you put in it. There's a correlation between those two. It's very important. Should you get back with them? The quick answer is I don't know. But what you have to understand is that you shouldn't accept to be treated badly. If they said mean things to you, if they didn't respect you, if they abused you, you have to take that step back and assess whether it's something that you want. The problem with breakup, the problem when we feel rejected is that our self-esteem will reduce, will get lower and lower and lower, okay? The idea is to really build yourself up and know your worth. In that context, if your ex used words that you felt really strongly about, expect an apology. That person had feelings for you, that person had a story with you. What have you done to deserve this, to be treated that badly? And so accepting them back right away without any apology, without anything, would be a mistake, because you might be forgetting about your own worth and putting yourself at a lower status in a way. So things need to be different from your side, and things need to be different on their side as well. It's not because they told you and they rejected you strongly that they don't have to change. Okay, it's very important as well. If you have any other questions, if you find that this video was helpful, don't hesitate to like, don't hesitate to subscribe. It does help me a lot and brings the community and brings those videos to more viewers. Any question, let me know in the comment section. Book a call with me if you want to have a chat, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
For a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.